Hi, welcome to the Lifestyle Herbalist, the podcast where holistic wellness meets everyday living. I'm your host, Dami Vaccaro. I'm a registered dental hygienist, a clinical herbalist, and a certified health coach.
And I'm your co-host, Sabrina Cooper, a registered dental hygienist with a bachelor's in oral health promotion, a certified culinary nutritionist and herbalist, and a mindfulness and mindful eating coach. Together, we explore the intersection of holistic health, herbal wisdom, and joyful living. From plant-powered remedies to kitchen medicine, mindful moments, and conversations that feed the soul, we're here to help you feel vibrant, grounded, and inspired in your daily life. So steep a cup of something soothing, settle in, and let's grow well together one episode at a time, bringing you a healthy dose of happiness.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Today's topic is something almost everyone has worried about at some point, but very few people feel comfortable talking about it, and that's bad breath, or how it's known medically is halitosis. Now, before you click away thinking this is going to be a lecture about brushing and flossing, stay with me. What we're going to discuss today goes much deeper than oral hygiene. Bad breath can affect relationships, self-confidence, intimacy, professional interactions, and surprisingly, it can sometimes provide clues about what's happening inside the body. Today we're going to explore how to tell someone that they have bad breath without hurting their feelings, the most common causes of chronic bad breath, the role of oral microbiome, whether gut health really influences mouth odor, and herbs and natural remedies that can help, plus practical steps you can take away to address the root cause rather than simply covering it up. So let's dive in. Let's talk about the awkward conversation. How do you tell someone that they have bad breath? Maybe it's a spouse, a close friend, a family member, a coworker, or perhaps you're wondering whether someone should tell you. Here's the reality. Most people would actually prefer to know. The problem isn't the information. The problem is the delivery. Nobody wants to be embarrassed or humiliated, and unfortunately, that's often what happens. Many people either avoid the conversation entirely or they make jokes that leave the other person feeling ashamed. Instead, approach it from a place of care. You might say, "Hey, I wanted to mention something because I care about you, and I really hope someone would tell me. I've noticed that your breath seems a little different lately. Have you noticed anything going on with your mouth or your health?" Notice what's different about that approach. You're not labeling them as unhygienic. You're not criticizing them. You're simply sharing an observation and expressing a concern. The key is privacy, kindness, and respect. Sometimes bad breath isn't a simple matter of forgetting to brush your teeth. Sometimes it's a sign that something deeper deserves attention. So, what actually causes bad breath? Many people assume bad breath comes from food. Things like garlic, onions, coffee. They certainly do contribute, but persistent bad breath usually has another cause. In fact, studies suggest that the majority of chronic bad breath originates inside the mouth itself. The main culprit? Well, it's bacteria. Now, before you panic about bacteria, remember something important. Your mouth is supposed to have bacteria in it. Thousands of species live there naturally, and the goal isn't to eliminate them. The goal is to find that balance. You see, when certain bacterial populations become dominant, they begin producing compounds called volatile sulfur compounds. And these compounds create odors that people often describe as rotten eggs, sulfur, decay, garbage-like odors. And these smells can persist even after brushing. So let's talk about the major causes. The tongue is the most overlooked source. One of the most common causes of bad breath sits right under your nose, literally, your tongue. The back portion of the tongue contains tiny crevices that can trap food particles, dead cells, mucus, bacteria. and over time, a coating develops. That coating becomes a perfect environment for odor-causing microbes. Many people brush their teeth twice a day but never think about their tongue. So think about that. If bacteria are accumulating on the tongue, brushing the teeth alone may not solve the problem. In fact, 80% of the bacteria in your mouth actually live on top of the tongue. Tongue scraping is one of the simplest interventions available, and it takes less than a minute. And yet many people notice a dramatic improvement once they start brushing their tongue or cleaning their tongue with a tongue scraper. Have you ever looked at the back of your tongue? You might be surprised what you find. And let's talk a little bit about gum disease and hidden infections. Another major contributor to bad breath or halitosis is gum disease. Healthy gums fit snugly around the teeth. When inflammation develops, tiny pockets form underneath the gum line. These pockets become oxygen-poor environments, and certain bacteria thrive under these conditions. The result? Persistent bad breath, bleeding gums, swelling, tenderness, sometimes a bad taste in the mouth. What's interesting is that many people assume bleeding gums are normal, but they are not. Bleeding gums are a sign of inflammation. Think of it this way. If your arm bled every time you touched it, you wouldn't consider that normal. The same applies to your gums. Persistent bad breath can sometimes be the earliest signs that gum health needs attention. The importance of saliva is really important as well, and it's something that people really don't think about. Saliva is one of the most important defenses against bad breath. Saliva washes away debris. It helps to regulate bacterial populations, it neutralizes acids, and it supports a healthy oral environment. When saliva production decreases, bad breath often increases. This condition is called dry mouth, and causes can include dehydration, stress, mouth breathing, certain medications, antihistamines, antidepressants, sleep apnea, and CPAP use. If you wake up with severe morning breath, dry mouth may be playing a part of the significant role. This is one reason why hydration is so important, not because water directly kills bacteria, but because hydrated mouth functions more effectively, and there are things available to help the mouth stay more moist. I will list some of my favorite recommendations in the show notes if this is something that you need in particular for your dry mouth. There's another hidden driver about bad breath. It's a piece of the puzzle that often gets overlooked when we talk about chronic bad breath, and that's how a person breathes. Mouth breathing is one of the most underappreciated contributors of halitosis. Now, in an ideal world, we breathe through our nose. Nasal breathing filters, warms, and humidifies the air before it enters the body. It also supports nitric oxide production in the nasal passages, which has important antimicrobial and vascular effects. But when someone becomes a habitual mouth breather during the day or at night, it changes the environment of the mouth. And here's why. When you breathe through your mouth, air is constantly flowing over oral tissues. That air leads to evaporation, and evaporation leads to dryness, and dryness leads to reduction of saliva. And as we've already discussed, saliva is one of the body's primary defense systems against bad breath. So if you created the perfect storm, less saliva, more dryness, more oxygen exposure to certain bacterial communities, and reduced natural cleansing. This shifts in oral microbiome in favor of odor-producing bacteria. And guess what? It doesn't stop there. Mouth breathing overnight is especially impactful. Most people wake up when they describe morning breath assuming that it's normal. To a degree, some change in morning breath is expected, but chronic, strong, persistent morning odor often points to nighttime mouth breathing. This can be associated with nasal congestion or allergies, deviated septum or structural nasal issues, sleep-disordered breathing, including snoring or sleep apnea, chronic inflammation in the upper airway. Here's an important clinical insight. If someone is breathing through their mouth at night, they are especially spending 6 to 8 hours in a low saliva, high dryness oral environment where bacteria can thrive unchecked. So even if you brush really well before bed, an overnight environment may still drive odor production. You might notice clues like waking up with a very dry mouth, drooling during sleep, snoring, cracked lips in the morning, or frequent throat clearing. From a supportive perspective, improving nasal breathing can sometimes make a noticeable difference in breath quality. Simple starting points can include addressing nasal congestion or your allergies, supporting hydration before bed, encourage nasal breathing awareness during the day, and in some cases, a referral to a dentist or an ENT for airway evaluation. Importantly, though, this is not about perfection. It's really about an awareness. But let's move on to the oral microbiome. This is a topic that's transformed how we think about oral health. And it is our bacterial microbiome. Just as your gut contains trillions of microbes and microorganisms, so does your mouth. And these organisms form a complex ecosystem. For years, we thought the solution of oral problems was killing the bacteria. Kill more germs, use a stronger mouth rinse, sterilize everything. We're now learning that health is not about sterilization. It's about balance. Some oral bacteria are beneficial, while others are problematic when they overgrow. Repeated use of highly aggressive antimicrobial products may temporarily reduce odor, but in some individuals it also disrupts microbial balance. It's similar to what happens in the gut after repeated antibiotic exposure. The ecosystem becomes altered. The future of oral health may involve supporting healthy microbial communities rather than consistently trying to eliminate them. I have seen this to be true as I studied more about the microbiome with salivary testing and how some of these microbes have actually become really resistant to things in our toothpaste and our mouth rinses. And so even though we're thinking we're doing the right thing, we're actually feeding the bad guys. And then the good guys really have a hard time living, and so we created our own dysbiosis. So does bad breath come from the mouth or does it come from the gut? Let's address one of the most popular questions. Is bad breath a gut issue? The answer is yes and no. Many social media influencers claim every case of bad breath comes from the gut. That's not exactly accurate. Most chronic bad breath originates in the mouth. However, digestive system can absolutely contribute. For example, acid reflux. When the stomach contents move upward into the esophagus, they absolutely affect the breath quality. Some people notice a sour breath, acidic breath, or burning sensations. Even things like poor digestion. If the food isn't being broken down efficiently because we don't have enough acid in the belly or there's not enough digestive enzymes, excessive fermentation can occur. This leads to things like gas, bloating, belching, and changes in breath odor. And then there's something called SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. This condition involves excessive bacterial populations in the small intestine. And the symptoms of this include, again, bloating, gas, abdominal discomfort, and altered breath. And then when things are really sluggish, we get constipation. When elimination slows significantly, waste remains in the digestive tract longer than intended. Some people notice increased body odor and changes in breath during periods of chronic constipation. Really, the key takeaway is this. Most bad breath starts in the mouth, but the mouth does not exist independently from the rest of the digestive system. Everything is connected. So what are some herbs that have been traditionally used to help support fresh breath and digestive health? Remember, herbs are our tools. They work best when the underlying cause is also addressed. Even though they can be helpful, they may not be the magic bullet. Fennel seed has been used after meals for centuries. And if you've ever been to an Indian restaurant, you'll usually find a little bowl of fennel seeds by the door. This helps to freshen breath, support digestion, and reduce bloating. Many cultures chew fennel seeds after they eat. Then there's cardamom. Cardamom contains aromatic compounds that naturally freshen the breath. It's one of the oldest traditional breath-supporting herbs. And we have clove. Clove has a long history in oral care. Many people find it refreshing and supportive for gum health. Sage has been traditionally used as a mouth rinse. It supports oral tissues and may help maintain a healthy oral environment. Things like peppermint is probably the most familiar breath-freshening herb, and it also supports digestion. However, some people with reflux find it to actually worsen their symptoms. I love marshmallow root. It's particularly useful for dry mouth. Its soothing, moistening properties supports mucous membranes throughout the mouth and throat. And then there's green tea. Green tea contains polyphenols that help reduce odor-causing bacteria while supporting a healthier microbiome balance. I just want to pause to say thank you so much for joining me on The Lifestyle Herbalist. And I wanted to take a moment to share a brand I personally use and truly believe in, and that's Defender Shield. In a modern lifestyle, we're surrounded by phones, laptops, and Wi-Fi all day long. And as an herbalist and dental professional, I care about reducing everyday stressors on the body, not just what I'm eating, but what I'm exposed to as well. Defender Shield creates lab-tested EMF blocking cases, laptop pads, and accessories designed to help lower our daily exposure while we use our devices. If you've been looking for a simple, practical way to support your overall wellness environment, I highly recommend starting there. You can use the link in the show notes and receive 10% off your first order with Defender Shield. Let's talk about something that I think is massively underestimated when it comes to inflammation, and that's the fats we use every single day. Because I see this all the time. Someone's doing all the right things, they're eating clean, they're taking supplements, they're still dealing with inflammation though. And sometimes it comes down to the smallest inputs. One of the first places I look is cooking oils. A lot of commonly used oils are highly processed, unstable at high heat, and can actually contribute to inflammation in the body, which as we know can show up in the gums, the gut, and even beyond. So one of the simplest shifts I have made is switching to a more traditional stable fat, specifically ghee. And I wanted to highlight this because not all ghee is created equal. I personally use great ghee because it checks all the boxes that actually matter. It's organic, non-GMO, and it's made locally here in Virginia, which I love supporting. But beyond that, there's a real science behind why this matters. Ghee is rich in fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K, and it contains compounds like butyrate that specifically helps support the gut and helps regulate inflammation. And because the milk solids are removed, a lot of people who are sensitive to dairy actually tolerate it very well. So this isn't just about swapping an ingredient, it's about choosing something that actually supports the body on a deeper level. And the best part? It's an easy change. You're already cooking. This just upgrades what you're cooking with. If you're working on inflammation, oral health, or even just wanting to feel better overall, this is one of those foundational shifts that can actually make a real difference. I'll link the one I like to use, Great Ghee, in the show notes. And if you'd like to try it yourself, use the code DABMEVACARO at checkout and get 10% off. It's simple, intentional changes like this that really do add up over time. Now, let's get back to the show. I also want to mention the importance, I think, of using xylitol, especially for someone who has a high sugar diet or a sugar addiction that you're trying to really manage. Xylitol is a 5-carbon sugar. It has calories, so it doesn't, and it has a low glycemic index, so it doesn't spike blood sugar and doesn't create any kind of an insulin spike or response in that realm. The thing I like about xylitol is that it helps to break up the plaque biofilm. It messes with the communication of the bacteria and actually can make your teeth feel cleaner, even if you don't clean your teeth that well. So that's how great it is. It can be used in mints, gums, mouth rinses, toothpaste, but you want to find gum and candy that has 100% xylitol. And I think there is more and more products that are now being able to be found in things in the bigger box stores instead of having to order it online or go to your health food store. So that's great news. So xylitol also helps with dry mouth because it encourages your own salivary flow to come into the mouth. And that is what we call liquid gold. We want the saliva to come into the mouth to nourish our teeth and our gums and help to break up that plaque and biofilm. And the saliva also has minerals that help us remineralize our enamel that gets threatened with acids and sugars and things like that. So let's talk a bit about our daily habits that really can impact this bad breath issue. So here are some action steps. If you're dealing with chronic bad breath, first, clean your tongue daily. Second, stay well hydrated. Third, support nasal breathing whenever possible. Fourth, clean in between your teeth on a consistent basis. And flossing doesn't always remove everything, especially as we get older. We start to lose some tissue in between our teeth, and food and things get caught in there. So I love things like soft picks or a water flosser. These are much more effective than using string floss. Fifth, address bleeding gums rather than just ignoring them. Bleeding is a sign of disease. It's inflammation. There's something else that's causing this. Sixth, consider whether medications are contributing to your dry mouth. I will say as a hygienist, one thing that we do is we check health histories. And one of the things I've noticed is that people have a lot of medications that they take, and the side effect for each one is dry mouth. Well, imagine one medication causing dry mouth, but then you have now 4 or 5 medications that each cause dry mouth. Well, that can leave a mouth feeling pretty parched. So if medications is an issue, then we need to have probably over-the-counter things or using the xylitol to really help correct that dry mouth. 7, evaluate the digestive systems like reflux, bloating, or constipation. And finally, maintain regular dental visits. Sometimes persistent bad breath is just a first clue that a cavity, infection, or a periodontal issue needs attention. I want to leave you with one final thought. Bad breath is often viewed as a cosmetic problem, an inconvenience, something to hide. But what if we viewed it differently? What if bad breath was information? What if it was your body's way of saying, pay attention? Perhaps your oral microbiome needs support. Perhaps your gums need care. Perhaps your digestion needs attention. Perhaps you're simply dehydrated. The goal isn't to feel embarrassed. The goal is to become curious. When we listen carefully to the signals our bodies provide, we often uncover opportunities to improve our health far beyond fresh breath alone. Hey, thanks for joining me today. If you found this episode helpful, share it with someone who you might think it'll benefit. And remember, health isn't about masking symptoms. It's about understanding what they're trying to tell us. Until next time, take good care of yourselves and keep asking better questions about your health.